Hello, everyone. It's Ian. Normally, whenever you hear me at the top of these episodes like this, usually something has gone wrong or something has happened, but that's not the case this time. This time, I've got a couple of things that are shifting around in my life, and Jason has just recently gotten married and is now enjoying his honeymoon, and so we've all come together and decided to try and take a week for ourselves, and that's exactly what this is. We're going to be showing you an episode from our back catalog. Some of you that have been around for a while may have listened to this one before, but anyone that is new to the show, this is one from a while back. We've got some great ideas coming down the pipeline. I hope you guys will stay tuned, but until then, enjoy. Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Stoney.
Hello.
And Jason.
Hello, everyone.
How are you guys doing?
Oh, it's been a good day so far.
We're recording a little bit earlier than our usual schedule, which is kind of nice, though.
Yeah.
I had to leave my doctor's office to come here, but that's all right.
Well, sorry about that.
That's okay.
But now that Mr. retired over here, he's got a little more free time on his hands, so that's been a little nice.
Yeah,
So
I've got a little bit more time now during the day to be able to get some things, to do some things earlier in the day instead of later in the day, just from a traffic standpoint. Of course, it's a lot easier for me to drive out to the studio at this time than it is later in the day. But
during rush hour.
It's
How's your back? Because your back's been giving you trouble.
Well, the back's it's getting better. I've been doing the exercises that the physical therapist gave me, so I've been doing those every morning. I was able to run a little this weekend.
There you go.
So I participated in a 5K in Lafayette, Louisiana.
That's a little running.
A little 5K. So did a very slow pace, me and my girlfriend, and it was her first 5K ever. And she was able to run the entire thing with me at a very slow pace, which I was very proud of her. She didn't think she could do it. She did it.
There you go.
Which I knew she could. And then yesterday we went out to the lakes to do a little walking, and it was a beautiful day.
Oh, yeah.
So
this past weekend has been really nice.
Yeah, so we took advantage of the beautiful weather, got out there, get some sunshine, and so it was nice. So
that's awesome. I had my birthday over the weekend as well.
Yes,
and
I saw that on Facebook.
It was I had because of my job and because of and the shows that we or the shows that I do, this show specifically we do, my calendar gets really full, and so I have to usually schedule out hangouts with friends, which is, there's nothing that feels more like an adult than penciling your friends in on a calendar, because we have to hang out at a certain time or just to chill out. But a handful of my friends have been super busy with work as well, and so I haven't seen them since the holidays or since New Year's really. And but I made sure to get them far in advance, saying, hey, I want to go to dinner for my birthday. I'm turning 30, so it was really good, because
that's a big year.
Everyone was able to come out, and we all went out and we went to a nice restaurant, and it was great to be able to just sit down and hang out with those really good friends of mine that I haven't had a chance to talk to in a while, because we've just been so busy. And it was all of us just chilling out. And
so what kind of restaurant was it?
It's
chain restaurant?
No, it's a local burger place that makes craft burgers.
Okay.
And I don't go there all the time, but I like it a lot. I like a good cheeseburger. It's just, I don't know what it is. And so that's what I was feeling like. And so we went there, and there's there's a supermarket, it's the same kind of parking lot area, and they were like, so what are we doing for dessert? And I was like, I didn't have any plans for the dessert. Let's go to the market over there and let's go buy a cake. And so we went over there and we got a few different kinds of desserts and stuff. We came back to the house, and I had bought my favorite bottle of champagne for myself, and so I had that at the very least, and everyone came by, and we had dessert, and we had champagne and whiskey and everything else, and it was a great time because my birthday was on a Saturday, so everyone was able to just kind of chill out and have fun, and it was great. It was a really good opportunity to hang out with my friends I hadn't seen in a while, and
Well, happy birthday to you.
Mm-hmm.
And 30 is a big year.
Yeah,
I remember 30.
everyone was making for me at least, was making it out to be like it was going to be a big, like I was going to be having some existential crisis, and I was like, maybe 6 months from now, but I think I'm pretty good right now. I was looking forward to it. Yeah,
I don't think.
Well, you just don't have the right kind of friends. Because they did not fill your car or your office up with black balloons and black graffiti and, put like these fake little tombstones in your office.
Yeah.
And
I have a cousin that lives out of state, and he was heckling me a little bit about it.
See, there you go.
30 years old.
Yeah.
I was on a beach, I believe, Panama City.
Yeah.
For my 30th birthday.
There you go. I think you told me about that.
So it's amazing how I remember that.
Right.
That's awesome.
See, I was on Panama Beach, on the beach, when 9/11 happened.
I think we had this conversation before. This all sounds very familiar. Yeah, that's interesting.
So 30 was
the
a
Matrix.
Good, 30
There's
was
a glitch in the Matrix.
30 was a good year.
Yeah.
30 was a good year.
And I have a feeling it's going to be a good year for me as well. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm optimistic. I think I have some great opportunities in my life, and I have some good people that are backing me up. And like I said, after I came back from that retreat, and I have like a clear
You're all
head.
refreshed?
I have a clear head, and I feel like I'm going into some new challenges and some new things I'm ready to tackle. But speaking of tackling something, what we got for this week?
Well, we're always looking for things to talk about, and I saw this really a couple weeks ago. I thought it might be a good topic to discuss. Is we all know a lot of things changed during the pandemic. A lot of kind of standardized practices of what people were doing, how institutions operated.
Everything got turned upside down.
Everything got turned upside down. And one of the big things that happened during that time was many colleges and universities started to do away with standardized testing.
They had actually started before the pandemic.
Right.
But the pandemic just gave them an open valve to be able to do it and have an excuse to just completely get rid of it.
Right. There's been growing talk. I mean, there's groups that say that standardized testing discriminates against, lower socioeconomic classes. It's racially biased. I've kind of read all the kind of the detractors of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're going to do that anyway because the highest grade you can get, unless you're in a private school, is a 4.0. But a private school has all this extracurricular activity, so if you can afford to send your kid, to a private school, you can get your kid a 4.8 or a 4.6 or a 5.0. And so how's that going to compete with a normal public school kid who can only do a 4.0? So there's ways around, they're going to hinge this bet for the higher paid kids anyway.
Well, I mean, I myself have a graduate degree, so I had to take some sort of standardized test. I'm trying to remember, was it I think it was SAT. Or something along those lines.
Back when I was at that age, you had to do both.
I don't remember what. I don't remember, but it's, I've followed this topic kind of casually over the years, simply because I haven't been in the, it's really been not relevant to my life because I haven't been in ever since I graduated back in.
And it's not like you have like kids that are going through it
right
now.
Right, exactly. I don't have children that are you're having to worry about that. So it's. I thought it would be an interesting topic to talk about. Is standardized testing good or bad? And what's happening is now Brown University is now I believe the third Ivy League school that is now bringing back.
Yeah, Dartmouth and MIT. have already brought it back as a requirement. to
Right.
get into
All
the school.
prospective students must submit their scores to these institutions, prior to selection. Now, of course, I don't believe they use these scores solely. I still believe they still kind of use a somewhat of a holistic approach, but the research shows that these scores actually are very good at predicting academic success, especially in very rigorous academic type institutions, sort of such like MIT or Brown or Yale or Harvard.
You see,
or
Harvard, if you want to get into Harvard, you can't be Asian right now. They have completely removed the admission of Asian people because at one time there was so many Asians there. So it's all about skin color right now. I hate to say that. That's just rude and that's ugly.
Yeah,
but right now it's about diversity and skin color. And if the testing inhibits somebody from getting in, then they can't go with the woke, diverse agenda, then they're going to have to remove the testing. But some schools are bringing it back, like you said, maybe not as the sole admission thing, but among some other criteria, so to speak.
Well, I've got some numbers here I was able to pull. It said just FYI, the SATs actually started in the 1930s. It was a scholarship test for Ivy League schools, and they based it off an Army IQ test, believe it or not. And it was meant to help those that came from more humble backgrounds to be noticed by prestigious schools. And then shortly thereafter, many universities and colleges kind of followed suit after that. But here are just some numbers that I was able to pull. In highly selective colleges with an acceptance rate below 20% often use SAT scores to confidently identify admitted students who have the highest probabilities of earning grades required to retain scholarships and participate in honors programs. These institutions prioritize academic excellence and may weigh SAT scores significantly in their admissions process. Selective colleges with an acceptance rate of 20 to 30% also take SAT scores into account. While they may not be as stringent as highly selective colleges, they still consider them as part of the holistic evaluation of applicants. In moderately selective colleges, these acceptance rates of 30 to 50% continue to factor in SAT scores, although they may place more emphasis on other aspects of an applicant's profile, such as high school GPA, extracurricular activities, and recommendation letters. And then, of course, you have your very less selective, which are pretty much open. They have acceptance rates anywhere from 50 to 100%. And they may consider SAT scores. So, I kind of throw this out there. I mean, what do y'all think about this issue? Do you believe standardized testing is what it claims to be or not?
Well, I think if it's a standardized test, then it needs to be the same for everybody. That's a standardized test. But what we're doing is we're in the process of dumbing down America. Because if you go to Russia or China or Japan or some of these other developed countries, they're not worried about economic development and things like that. They're worried about putting the best kids in the best places with the best education. In America, we're just trying to dumb down our people. That's been the way since we became a government-ran education system. So I think the standardized test needs to be the same for everybody, and it's not.
Well, what I found interesting and kind of diving into some of this stuff is what they have found, the argument against these tests that had been building probably since 2014. And And I believe that started under the Obama presidency, where they're trying to get more people into college, especially less affluent and more minority applicants into college. And what they found out now is, believe it or not, high school GPAs are not a very good measure of academic success in college. Simply because of a phenomenon that's going on in many school districts across the country. It's grade inflation.
Really?
Yes.
Which is what I was just talking about a few minutes ago.
I read an article here, and if I can find it real quick.
I remember taking, when I was like in high school, we had like a standardized test that we took. It wasn't like an ACT or SAT, but it was like a placement test.
I think when Terry was here, she said that there was a standard test that she did use for that.
And it helps. It helps with gauging where you're at on certain areas of your education process. Right. So some people may be weaker in reading and writing, or or higher in mathematics or that kind of stuff. So like for me at least, like my idea of a standardized test has been a little more beneficial in a way to help certain kids that may have gotten left behind or weaker in certain areas kind of like pinpoint where they're at least, and then so my mom can like build a foundation from there to then, help gauge, is this going to be more challenging? Are they going to be learning from this and that kind of stuff? So I've never taken the SAT or the ACT.
Okay.
And so I don't know the kind of what all goes into it. So I believe, like, if it's done correctly, I think it could be good, like you're saying, to like gauge a person's intelligence level, to know where to put them or to know where to place them, or if you have to have a certain threshold to be in a certain institute or something. But if it's going to be something where, I don't know, whenever you start dealing with discriminatory stuff, or we start dealing with, like you said, social economic stuff, that's where it kind of gets a little messy for me. Like, I don't think that doesn't feel fair at that point, but
yeah. I mean, well, look, like I mentioned, I found this New York Post talking about grade inflation. This is a perfect example. And this is to talk about this is in New York. It says recently teachers, and this article is showing, where's the data? It was published. This is from 2022. So it's a couple years old. But I mean, this is something that the education, this whole argument of how we deliver education in this country.
Right.
This whole topic. But it basically here, let me pull it up. I found this just kind of horrifying. It says, last year, a long-stalled investigation revealed that Maspeth High School in Queens repeatedly faked passing grades. In 2020, at Brooklyn's Cobble Hill High School, where more than 70% of the students were failing, the principal was secretly recorded instructing teachers to just pass kids.
What?
This happens not just at an isolated failing school. Data on middle schools show widespread grade fraud in New York City public schools.
Really?
And the worst often occurs predominantly in black communities. One such school is Eagle Academy for Young Men of Harlem, where in 8th grade, 95% of students failed math proficiency.
95?
95.
Cool.
According to New York State standardized testing. But the school passed 93.9% of them in that subject.
Wow.
No child left behind. We're going to get them through no matter what.
The founder and former head of Eagle Academy Network, David Banks, is now new chancellor of New York City Department of Education. He quickly banished standardized testing from large swaths of New York City's education landscape. Grades aren't the only thing that's phony in our Tompkins schools. G&T programs originally tailored to academically advanced students selected by standardized testing, now accept anyone. They are Potman's G and T's. So that's what I'm saying. It is, I think, and then of course, these children now are applying to these colleges that are not academically prepared to handle the course load. They're just not. And the problem is it goes deeper than that because these school systems, unfortunately, are very political. Right. And they're very, very much tied to, get too political in this topic, but it's tied to the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. They are, big time. And it's hard to make changes in this because of the politics that are involved in this issue. So, yeah. I can understand universities saying, okay, we have to kind of get back to a metric that we know that this child or this person, I should say not a child at that point, this student coming in is going to be able to handle the course load at Brown University or MIT. We all know that's where the smart people go, right? They go to MIT. When we think of the people that are on the cutting edge of the latest technology and engineering and stuff like that, we think of those kind of institutions. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason for that, because those are the kind of people that score very, very high on these standardized testing. I wouldn't say it's 100%, because no test is 100% can capture what a student can do. But I think the evidence is showing probably it's the best metric we have at the moment, unless they can come up with another model.
Right.
So, but yeah, some good stuff on this. It really is. So it's now when Brown has said, okay, and I believe it's starting in 2029, they're going back to it. So, yeah.
Interesting.
I've got some other stuff here. I'm kind of going through some of my notes right now that they say only time will tell how many others will follow. Okay, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to go to something else because kind of more general, some more numbers I have here.
Mm-hmm. I have a couple. Let me throw at you. In 2022, there was 3 million SAT and ACT tests that year, which was up from 2.8 million in 2021, but that was down from 4 million in 2019.
And I believe the SAT, those scores have kind of dropped as far as what...
From even further on now, they're even less than that now.
And some of that is attributing to what happened during COVID. Mm-hmm. People were at home. We all remember what was going on with schools at that time. They were trying to figure out how to carry on class with the kid at home, and I don't really know how successful
now
that really was.
Last year, 20% of the students skipped the test, 30% took the test but didn't submit their scores, 50% took the test and submitted the scores, which is another raw number drop. So they're taking them to a certain extent, which is killing the testing industry, which is actually a nonprofit industry. They still make money on some of this testing, but they're a nonprofit, and now they're just using the test in different ways.
Well, right now, as they try to, they're still navigating this whole thing because not all of them, like I know the University of California system, they've basically done away with ACT and SATs altogether. Mm. And they've gotten a lot of pushback on that, but, that kind of goes back and forth. But right now, over 80% of colleges and universities remain test optional through the fall of 2025, according to Fair Test, an educational nonprofit advocating for fairness and accuracy in student test taking. Schools like Dartmouth, Brown, and Yale have reinstated their standardized test score requirements, but questions persist about the necessity of SAT and ACT scores as pandemic-induced test optional policies reach their expiration dates. In regional selective universities in the Pittsburgh region, I read this, Carnegie Mellon University, University of Pittsburgh, and Penn State are test optional for the fall of 2024 applicants. Data from Pitt and Penn State show that students are taking advantage of test optional policies. For instance, 61% of Penn State's University Park applicants applied without an SAT or ACT score for the fall of 2023, while 55% of applicants to Pitt's Oakland campus did the same. Carnegie Mellon's data remains undisclosed. Both Pitt and Penn State will continue to be test optional through the fall of 2025, and Carnegie Mellon's plans for fall of 2025 are not yet shared. A report highlighted disparities in standardized testing between white and black students, with an eventual pass rate of 91% for white students and 57% for black students. As schools rethink their approach, it's crucial, that they be looking at all of these things that affect why is that. Mm-hmm. So,
but it sounds like to me is that they were having just the sheer cost of the school. The higher education is just astronomical right now. And so they were looking at ways to get more students in. So they had to open some of their admission stuff and took away the test. And then COVID came in and admissions dropped. They just tanked. And so they said, okay, let's just let anybody in that'll actually pay. And now that admissions are on the rise again, well, maybe we ought to start bringing back the tests. So it sounds like it's a money issue more than it is anything to me.
Well, as you said, you're talking about standardized tests. That you say as long as it's standardized and everybody's taking the same test, and this is what I'm saying. This is why I think you're going to see more of them going back to standardized testing, at least if you're basing it off empirical research. Mm-hmm. What I call hard facts. I found this interesting article. Emerging data from academic research is showing that standardized tests are less biased.
Really?
Than many other parts of the college application process, like extracurricular activities, college essays, and teacher recommendations. An admission systems that drops mandatory tests in favor of these other factors gives big advantages to affluent students.
Which goes to what I said earlier about being able to go to private schools and taking advantage of some of the extra stuff, and parents that actually have money to be able to put their kids in extra stuff.
Yeah, David Deming, a Harvard economist, has I'm reading something that he said here, which I think is pretty. Test scores, by contrast, seem to be useful at identifying students from disadvantaged backgrounds who have enormous potential, even if their scores aren't quite as high on average as those of well-off applicants. When you don't have test scores, the students who suffer most are those with high grades at relatively unknown high schools. The kind that rarely sends kids to the Ivy Leagues. So it appears that, not knowing much about this topic, because as I said, I don't really read a whole lot about these things, but it appears that taking the standardized, removing the SAT and the ACT component actually benefits the more affluent, because the more affluent are going to be able to show a lot more of a broad academic profile than, say, somebody that's in less, in a less desirable school system that maybe don't have all the things that more well-off school districts can offer. So I can see how that can that cannot have the effect that what they thought they were doing.
Right.
It had the opposite effect.
But, the SAT has come in basically on how much tuition you pay, too. It's been used to help people that can't completely afford it to get some college help and some what do you call it? When you get help in college? Oh, here comes my memory.
Talking about tutoring?
No. They
like,
pay you to go to school.
Talking about student loans?
Not even grants.
yeah.
Pell
You can get
grants?
Pell grants and
Yeah.
things like that. So SATs were also an element in the black box enrollment management algorithms that most private colleges and increasing many public ones use to maximize how much tuition students pay. The first wave of test optionality, which was exclusive a private school phenomenon because it was about marketing and recruitment, giving students with low scores and generous bank accounts another reason to apply. So here we come again. Follow the money. They did it because they could have more kids coming in, even though they really didn't cut what you were really looking for as academia now, but they got the big bank accounts.
Well,
It's all about the money.
Yeah, it always is about the money.
It's always about the
always
money.
about the money.
well, I mean, I there's always going to be this perpetual argument out there.
Mm-hmm.
How do you account for the social disparities in society and how that affects children if we want to try to put all children on an equal playing field that we say we want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Is it even possible in our country? I don't know, because the United States is such a broad, large country with a lot of cultural groups that kind of part of its makeup. And I don't know if everybody has the same values
Well, they don't.
per se.
They don't.
And I think that's ultimately what's always going to be. I think, and we all know about this. I think schools do a great job of being kind of equal across the board when the school when the child's in school. But the problem is, for a child, it's only 10% of their time is spent in school. The other 90% is family life, and then the question is how is that family life? Is the other 90% reinforcing the values that you need to kind of reinforce for the child to be successful in life?
Well, it comes down to what we're teaching our kids in the home and the values that we're putting in them. Because if you go to Japan, there's no custodial employees in the schools. There's no janitors. You know who does all the cleaning? The students, because they take pride in what they're doing. They're trying to be the very best that they can. And no matter what their socioeconomic background is, because they have poor, they have rich, they have everything just like America does. But the kids want to learn because they know that learning and having an education is going to help them succeed in life. And they take great pride in their schools. They have clean schools. They clean them. They each class takes turn cleaning the bathrooms, et cetera, et cetera. Well, why do we have that problem here in America? I mean, our kids do not want to be in school. They think it's a waste of their time, and the parents aren't helping them learn and push.
Well, I think you're...
Because what we're doing is we're teaching our kids to take a test instead of actually learning and inspire them, because you get your funding. Oh, wow, here we come back to money again on the testing that your students take.
Well, I mean...
I've watched Magnus study. They prepare for a month before the big test every year for school. What's the big test?
Final exams or
No,
midterms?
That's part of schooling, but they're LEAP.
Oh,
Leap
yeah.
Well,
test
yeah,
in.
in this state, it's
It's
leap.
LEAP. You know, good Lord. You know, we're not teaching them anything. We're teaching them how to pass the LEAP test so that we can get the funding.
Well, I think a lot of it too. Yeah, it's all about numbers. I mean,
Mhm.
even I had some friends, growing up even back when I was in high school, it was very obvious that like you were a number, and the more, what do they call it whenever you get like a free ride to school?
Scholarship.
Scholarship.
That's the word I was looking for
Scholarship.
earlier. That's brain damage.
Yeah,
It's
I got
kicking
you.
my ass right now. Scholarship. Thank you.
It was all a test. I'm just trying to work out Stoney's
Okay.
brain here.
There you go. I
But
appreciate it. I need all the help I
Whenever
can
high schools, like it was very evident that all they care about was like how many kids got the best scholarships, or like sticking with going, like you have to go to college because they need to get numbers. And they didn't make it evident to the kids, but it was very obvious that like the school needs to pass quote unquote so many kids, and also like it looks better if you have so many kids that are going to to the big
Well, a lot of, like you
universities.
said, a lot of the private schools do that, and that's where this extracurricular activity came from in the private schools. Like I said,
Yeah.
the best you can have is 4.0. If you get straight A's, what do you have? A 4.0. So how do you wind up having a 4.8 or a 5.0? It's all this extracurricular activity, because a lot of these private schools, that's what their recruitment is 95% of our kids get full scholarships and go to the best schools, and 100% of them get all all of their applications are approved, and that's part of it is managing the numbers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I never had. I mean, like I never had the stress about going to college. I thought about it for a while, but then the more I talked to people that were kind of in the industry that I was wanting to work into, they were like, "You can do it, but it would be a really big waste of your money. Just come work." And I was like, "Okay." So I did. I did a lot of graphic design stuff. I did a lot of film and editing stuff, and so that was like it's a little different than what. But I know for a fact if I was going to go to like, and I've said this to other people as well. If I was going to go to like doing engineering stuff, or I was going to be a doctor, or like all those big things, like that's stuff that requires college, and I know that. So I don't put down college at all. But so
well, I mean, statistics do show that people who do go to college, on average, make more money than people who don't go to college. I mean, the studies are pretty clear on that. I think a lot of it depends on the type of work you're going to go into.
you're right.
And of course that kind of brings up what I've thought about: are we delivering higher education the most optimal way that we can?
No, we're not.
And I've always said, and I'm not an anti higher ed person. I think there's a place for higher education in society. It has shaped a lot of great minds. Our country, a lot of it, our ingenuity, our intellectual capital. All that is kind of marinated in those environments, and it has kept America in its leading place in the world. And I worry about the dumbing down. And for someone who's, believe me, I'm not what I would call an academic, because I'm not.
Right.
But I do understand that there are a lot of smart people out there, and they need to be challenged.
Right.
And those are the people that are going to probably create the next great things. It won't be people like me. It just, I mean, I understand my limitations of what I am. There are people that are brilliant.
Right.
I mean, we've talked about a few of these people. We think of the Nikola Teslas.
Yeah.
And all these great famous people that the inventors and stuff like that. These were very, very smart people.
Didn't Einstein fail high school math or something? Didn't he fail something?
Oh yeah, you're right. I don't know what it is, but
He
that does
failed
sound- yeah.
something. So
Well, I mean, yeah, he may have failed. What was his name that dropped out of college? Bill Gates.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's not an absolute.
yeah, well, what he did was learn how to steal other people's ideas. Though. So
It's not.
you didn't need to go to college for that.
No, I mean, you don't have to. I mean, it's, as I said, there are exceptions to every rule. And I'm a firm believer in that. I mean, there are exceptions to every rule. And I do believe that we need to tweak what we do, because this kind of leads into another topic. It's just the crushing student debt that's being accumulated by kids that are getting degrees and jobs that are never going to pay back what you're having to spend to get this degree. It's kind of the old return on investment.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot that can be tweaked.
Right.
I have always been a fan of, as a country, America should be looking at itself going, what fields do we need people in? If it's STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, then those fields should be prioritized. And I would even venture to say education should be made free for those people, because that benefits our country
Right.
from a national security standpoint.
Right.
I don't want to be relying on China or some other country to do critical things. I want our own people to be able to do it. That
I
hurts
agree.
us.
Right.
Yeah, well, but we're dumbing down our kids. This has started since Rockefeller gave $125 million twice to the federal government to come up with standardized schooling, government schooling. We got to get our government out of schooling and let our teachers teach the kids, because that's what the teachers want to do. They want to teach the kids. They want to inspire the kids, and they're teaching our kids how to take a test.
I think it's funny right here. I looked up the Einstein thing you were referring to, and it said that Einstein's frustration with rigid school curriculums led him to drop out of school at 15. He decided to educate himself for the following year. When he was 16, he took a college entrance exam. He passed the math and science portions, but failed language and history.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it's funny to think that at
Albert Einstein,
15 and
right?
16 years old, dropped out of school to go educate himself. So I think it's funny referring to the fact that you're in an education system that probably doesn't have your best interest at heart.
Well, I mean, just like I said, I mean, we can't. The problem is for many kids in high school, you have systems like what I just read to you. That's going on all over the country.
Right.
So you've got kids that supposedly are A students. Are they really A students?
Right. Because they just want numbers.
They want numbers.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, our education system has become more about stats.
Yeah.
And it's producing this, which then justifies me for more money. And especially at the local level with local school districts around. I read it many years ago. I read an article in I believe it was the Heritage Foundation, which I believe is somewhat of a conservative think tank, if I'm not mistaken. But this was from a long time back. And it basically, there was a study done if schools operated like a business.
Oh.
Literally. If schools operated like a business, as far as a business model, where each school would compete against the other. And they ended it. The research showed that actually, once schools, even schools that were like in poor areas, that were the traditional bad schools, because those schools started doing whatever they did, they said, okay, we're going to select these 5 schools, and we're going to see what happens.
Right.
We're going to take some in affluent areas, some in poor areas, and say, okay, do this. I'd have to go back and look. 'Cause it's been from many, many years ago.
Right.
But they show that even schools that were technically terrible started doing well because they all had to do the same thing.
Right.
Guess what started to happen? People wanted to now live around these school districts.
There you go.
Then that in turn drove property taxes and then drove economic activity for an area.
Right.
So that model right there showed that when schools are left to find creative ways, however the model may be, that, okay, I may not be able to do the same as the area over here. The social dynamics are different. Everything is different over here. The challenges are different. But over here, let's do this. It may be completely unorthodox.
Yeah.
It may be something radically different. But if all of a sudden test scores started going up and it was working, it's proven, it's not like what's going on, what happened in New York, that things can change, that we can actually do something different if we completely throw out this model of how we deliver education in this country. I've always said that we are hamstrung by the politics of education is the problem here in America. I mean, you don't find this kind of balkanization of education in like Finland or Japan or South Korea. I mean, everybody takes the same test.
Right. Is what it is.
It's like a national holiday.
Right.
This is the time we get, and if you miss it, you got to wait till next year.
That's crazy. I mean, that is good though. I mean, they're rigid, structured, like, you know, do's and don'ts. It's funny you mentioned the fact, like, you know, kind of like a healthy competition between schools, and treating it more like a business. Like I've mentioned on this podcast before, I was middle management at a coffee shop, and I do not condone. I don't want to say that. I don't like drive-through coffee. I don't like the idea of drive-through. It's like a cafe, even if it's quick. I still recommend just going inside and getting the coffee. Anyways, the drive-through element was always frustrating to me. But it's funny that like it even applies in that aspect of for the store that I worked at. We would have, you know, that week's drive-through times were like, you know, our kind of like high score of the week, like during like our peak times. Of like, you know, how, like, as a team, how could we get better to get that number down? And of course, whenever we would hit certain numbers, we would all celebrate and have a fun time, and it was awesome. But then with that, you know, occasionally, once a month or once every couple weeks, we would see some of the other scores from stores in the area. So it was like a good like frame of reference for how, you know, how are we doing as opposed to some of the other stores in the area. So like, and it was also fun because then we could like talk and hang out with some of the other stores, and it was cool. But at the fundamental nature of it, you know, trying to get drive-through times down at a coffee shop, I don't like that. Doesn't rub well with me. But it referenced the same sort of thing you're talking about, though.
I like quotes.
Okay.
And in 1903, J.D. Rockefeller, after he created the General Education Board in America, he said, "I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers." There's more to that quote, but that sums it up. And H.L. Mencken said, "The aim of public education is not to spread enlightenment at all. It is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same safe level, to breed and train a standardized citizenry, and put down dissent and originality." And then I think my favorite quote about it from Elon Musk: "I hate when people confuse education and intelligence. You can have a bachelor's degree and still be an idiot."
I would venture to say, depending on what you're talking about. I mean, what does a degree indicate?
It shows that you can go follow a routine, do a couple of things, and go do something for 4 years.
Well, I think I would agree that it shows, but it shows some academic prowess.
Mm-hmm.
That I can consume material, understand that material, and actually apply that material to whatever circumstance I may have in life.
Right.
Now, there are some things that are like, for example, a doctor. What I mean, a doctor has to go master a certain body of knowledge. That's what, when you see this plaque on the wall.
Yeah.
Do you want a dumb doctor? I don't think too many. Do you want a dumb surgeon? No, you don't. I mean, you want somebody that's.
I can say from firsthand experience, no, you don't.
Yeah, I mean, you don't.
But I think that with conversations like this, there's always this like middle ground. There's always this gray area where I do feel like college can be applied well if you go to college and you're going for the right things and you do apply yourself and like, so I wouldn't say that having no college at all is the answer. I'm not saying that everyone should go to college because that's the answer. And because again, I do feel like there are some things that you probably shouldn't go spend all that money on as far as like a degree, because there are many friends that I have or that I acquaintances or I know a guy who knows a guy kind of situation where someone has went to college and spent, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on a degree in a field that they're not going to get a job in, or they can't get a job in, or is not going to pay off that kind of debt. And so at that point, it's like, that feels like a lack of wisdom almost of, or if that is not wisdom, have you had people in your life that could kind of mentor you in that area of like, should you do that?
But it's also the same thing. Like we had a guest on, retired police chief of Baton Rouge, Murphy Paul, was talking about the 3 C's: control, choices, and consequences. College, you can choose to take full advantage of what a college has to offer and maximize it.
Right.
Same thing in other schools too. Even if you're in a poor area, you can choose to maximize that. But what we're doing is we're training our kids not to.
Right.
We don't want them to maximize it. And other kids make fun of the smart kids and they beat them up and shove them in lockers instead of people taking advantage of what's in front of you and learning the maximum amount that you can and taking advantage of it. It's better to be a bully and hurt people's feelings. It's easier. And
People that are like that are generally, there's some insecurity going on with that person and they mask it. But
that's in any educational. That's in lower educational. That's in high school. That's in college. That's no more people. It's your choice. It's up to you what you do.
I've got some data on.
That's surprising. You have data?
I have data on student loans.
Here we go.
I thought this was interesting. It says, as of June, approximately 43.6 million Americans held federal student loan debt with an average balance of $38,000 per borrower. The total collective balance of student loans in the U.S. exceeds $1.7 trillion.
Cool. Trillion?
Jeez.
I can't even fathom that number.
Student loans constitute the second largest type of consumer-generated debt, trailing only mortgages, and account for 9% of the nation's consumer debt.
God.
Now, we all heard in the news lately about student loans with President Biden. Recently, $1.2 billion in student debt cancellation was approved for almost 153,000 borrowers enrolled in the Saving on Valuable Education Repayment Plan. The SAVE plan provides debt forgiveness to borrowers who have been in repayment for as little as 10 years and took out $12,000 or less in student loans. This relief was implemented nearly 6 months ahead of schedule. Overall, the Biden-Harris administration has now approved nearly $138 billion in student debt cancellation for almost 3.9 million borrowers. And he's done this primarily through executive action, which has led a lot of people to basically question the legality of that really only Congress can forgive debt, not the president.
See, the problem is that the debt's actually not being forgiven. Okay, you're not forgiving the debt. You're taking that debt from people who went and got a degree in basket weaving that can never get a job that'll actually help them repay that loan back. And you're actually taking that debt and you're transferring it to taxpayers who some of them didn't even go to school, but they're plumbers, they're construction workers, they're welders, they're, other people. And that's who's actually going to be paying that debt off. It's not forgiveness. It's a transfer of debt to somebody else. So it's I get very offended by that term. Student loan forgiveness, because it's not being forgiven.
It doesn't. Money just magically disappear.
If it was forgiven,
it's somebody's paying for it.
Then the school is going to go, okay, poof, you're magically forgiven. Don't worry about paying that back. And that's not how that's working. That is being transferred to somebody else, like the war in Ukraine. That is being transferred to the taxpayers. We are actually borrowing money from China and transferring that debt to the American taxpayer.
Well, that once again, that taps into what I've said earlier, that how we deliver higher ed, the America does not, I don't think, do a very good job of basically identifying students. Okay, you're not going to do well in a college environment. You're just not. But you would do well in some sort of vocational training, because the vast majority of jobs in this country really don't require higher education. They don't.
Right.
There's a ton of plumbers and electricians and carpenters and you name the craft. Those all require intelligent people to be able to function in a skilled labor environment and be able to go do that. Like, for example, here it says this survey is back from last year, 2023, found that 42% of Americans believe college is worth the cost because it leads to better job opportunities and higher income. However, 56% believe that earning a college degree is not worth the cost. So you're starting to see all of a sudden people are waking up. And I think a lot of this is being driven by the amount of student debt. These people are coming out of school,
well, think about this.
With
if
$50,000, $60,000, $70,000 right off the bat.
Or more. If you want to be a teacher, you've got 4 to 8 years of schooling to become a teacher, whether you need a bachelor's or a master's degree, depending on where you want to teach. So how much debt are you going to have? $100,000, $150,000, because a good school is going to cost you $20,000 to $40,000 a year to go to school,
right?
With everything else, and then you come out and you're going to make $36,000 as a teacher, $40,000 as a teacher. How do you expect to pay that loan back? How about if somebody wants to go to school to be a teacher and they sign on the dotted line to be a teacher in the Louisiana school system?
Right.
We pay that bill.
Right.
How about that? That's true student loan forgiveness.
I am all in favor of us we need to reimagine this whole paradigm that is in place right now that has convinced the culture has now been convinced that if I don't go to college, I'm not going to be successful.
Well, that started in my generation. That started in mine. Everybody wanted to go to college because back then, if you had a college degree, it helped you. Now, not so much.
Well, I personally think in a perfect system, if it could be pulled off here, to me, by the time you're a sophomore in high school, they probably know this person's either college material or he's not. And if he's not, all right, let's figure out what would be that person's role. And if that means, hey, we need to put you in automotive school, or we need to put you in plumbing school, or whatever, and to kind of be more deliberate in how we go about funneling kids instead of basically just kind of throwing you out there and somehow magically this thing is just going to work out. I just think that's a wrong way of doing this, and I think it would I think this issue is just going to grow and grow as this student debt, because to go to school is costing more and more money.
Yeah.
Part of that is because now governments are not giving higher ed as much money as they once did. That's why a lot of them have these private fundraising arms and they have these foundations set up.
But in the same vein of what you're talking about, by a certain age, you should know what they want. My favorite quote, and I've said this, and I'm glad to be able to do it again, is by Chip Foose, famous car custom builder. The biggest crime happening in America is the fact that they pulled all of these shop classes out of schools. Kids today, their dream isn't to build something, but to buy something.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of that is, now since I would venture to say the late 70s, when a lot of the manufacturing got shipped off to other countries, then the void that was left behind was filled at one time by people. That shop was kind of, you needed it because we made stuff here. We don't make anything here anymore. So the question is then what do you do? Okay, but you still there are other skill craft positions, professions that need filling. And there's a chronic shortage of those workers. Because, and let's be honest, those professions are not, I'm not saying that's a panacea. Because the reality is the older someone gets, would I rather be sitting at a desk or crawling underneath a car or out in the elements trying to dig up a pipe or whatever the case may be? I mean, there's just a reality of that. So I can understand why parents would want their child to try to maybe have the easiest life that they could.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think we need to do something different. I don't necessarily have I'm sure there's a lot of things you got to think about, and there's still, you have to overcome the stigma of not having a college degree.
Yeah.
In this country.
I've had to.
Yeah.
A lot of people look down. I have.
I mean, you have a certain skill set that you're very good at, that you've taken time to perfect as the years have gone by.
Yeah. I've taken probably the better part of a decade to really work in one field to get really good at what I'm doing. And there's been a couple of times where with this job specifically that I'm at currently, I got offered the position and I got offered a salary that was above what I was making at the previous job. So that was the incentive, was like, hey, we want you here, and here's a little bit of a pay increase because we know what you're asking for. And people on the staff that found out that I was homeschooled and found out that I didn't have a college degree, some of the people were upset because I think that this shouldn't have happened, but I think that somebody had let loose how much I was making, and they were upset because they were, at an entry-level position that, they had a college degree, they have a psychology degree, they have all that stuff. They've gone to school for very long, and they're at an entry-level position, and they're not making as much money as I am, who was homeschooled and doesn't have a college degree. And I'm now head of a department that can now, do what I'm doing, and that made them very upset about it.
Oh, yeah, because there is this expectation that because somehow I've got this piece of paper showing I've gone, that somehow entitles me to a certain, kind of a place in society. And it now they're coming to find it really just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And, I don't know. I mean, this is I think what's really going to start driving, I just think the student debt issue is just gotten completely out of hand.
Yeah.
And it's going to force kids that are now coming up. I don't know what's going to take when, maybe universities, go to strictly certain professions, you know, if you want to be a lawyer, doctor, you know, type of thing, then you go here, and there is really no college.
Right.
You know, there is no college for any other thing.
Yeah.
You know,
I've talked about this before, and with this year now, starting, and I'm getting to a place financially where I feel like I can do it. I've talked about in the past about potentially getting my pilot's license, and I've wanted to, but I know that it's one of those things where I need equipment, I need certifications, I need all that kind of stuff, and I wanted to have at least some money set aside for that whenever those things do arise. I'm not putting myself into debt for it, and so I feel more comfortable to move into that place where I may not go to college, but I feel like I'm preparing myself. I'm preparing my mindset for the fact that I want to go, and I'm going to go there to learn about this very specific thing. I'm going to get certifications on these very things, on the lingo, on all the instruments, and all the stuff I need. And so it's going to be a long, strenuous process. But I know it's the same sort of thing. Is where I'm not going to go to like a college where like
no, you're not.
But there is a specific trade that I want to go into. I think that I can really put a bunch of my time and effort and money into, and I think it's going to get me a better paying job potentially, and of course, you know, in a whole new world of opportunities. So, anyways, is there anything else you want to talk about or hit on?
I think this topic is trending right now. These colleges are going to probably face some political blowback because there are, you know, groups out there that want to make everybody victims, and you know, and because of that, then I think it's actually harming people. You know, it's helping. I mean, maybe deep down they feel like they're trying to make sure everybody has an equal shot, but the reality is, it seems to be the most equal shot is a standardized test.
You can't force everyone to have an equal shot. Everybody has to want an equal shot, and they have to be willing to work for it, and they have to be willing to put in the effort. And when they don't want to, you can't force that,
right?
Because then you have a society of victims.
That's right, you do, and that's unfortunately what our country's dealing with right now. Maybe it'll change.
Right. Well, for anybody who's looking to share their opinion or their 2 cents on that topic, because I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there that's going to want to say something about it.
I have a feeling we'll hear from Miss Terry.
Maybe. You're right. You're probably right. We have an email address, getoffendedtogether@gmail.com, where you can go ahead and send us your more lengthy comments and questions and all that kind of stuff. We also have a Facebook page /Retrospect Pod, where you can, you know, just give us some topics or, you know, the less lengthy things you want to tell us. But anyways, until next week, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. You're the best. Peace.